This past weekend at UFC 297, I had my biggest gambling win of my career. I won over $70,000 on one fight, and I'm going to tell you exactly how I did it. So I've been betting for a very long time. For over 15 years, I've been betting consistently. I started betting as a young lad, and I really came into the game through my nan and through my granddad. My granddad was a prolific gambler back in the UK, back in London where I'm from, and he also owned greyhounds. So since my nan and granddad owned tons of greyhounds, I was automatically embedded into the gambling scene of the dog racing tracks around the UK when I was a kid. I bet on every sport you could think of for many, many years. But over the last 8 years, I've focused solely on MMA. I love the sport of MMA. I've trained Muay Thai and kickboxing for many years. I've trained boxing when I was younger. I've trained the grappling arts, sambo, wrestling, MMA, everything. I just love fighting. And my passion for MMA started about 8 years ago. Since then, I've gone on to establish myself as one of the best MMA gamblers in the entire world. And I proved that once again this past weekend when I bet on a guy called Neil Magny. Now, typically, Neil Magny is not the type of guy that every gambler wants to bet on. He doesn't have any outstanding skills. He's sort of a gatekeeper, meaning he loses a lot of fights. And even in the fights he wins, he usually has to come through some adversity. It's rare that Neil Magny puts on a clean 15-minute performance. So, us as gamblers, we oftentimes don't want to bet these type of fighters. But obviously, there's a time and place for everything. The time to bet Neil Magny was this past weekend in Toronto, Canada. The UFC held their first pay-per-view event of the year in Canada, and Neil Magny was facing off a Canadian rising star called Mike Malott. Now, Mike Malott seemed to have it all. He was good looking, easy to market, good shape. All of his wins have come inside the distance. He had never won a decision in the UFC. He had finished everyone, knockouts, submissions. He looked the part. But me, being a seasoned gambler in the MMA markets, I saw something a little bit different. I like to look at the intricacies of fighting. So yeah, Malott was a Canadian fighting in Canada. You would think that the UFC would want him to win. He's got a lot of submission wins, a lot of knockout wins. I looked a little bit deeper. I read between the lines, and what I saw when I did my study for this matchup between Mike Malott and Neil Magny is that Mike Malott is more of an athlete than a fighter. I saw that his cardio wasn't the best. I didn't like his reactions to getting hit on the feet. I didn't think his striking defense was all that good. And to me, he didn't look like the type of fighter that would push hard when the going gets tough. I felt like he was a great hammer, but maybe not a good nail. There's no disrespect to this dude, Mike Malott. He's obviously a very talented fighter. He's fighting at the upper echelons of the UFC's division. Good luck to him, but I have to call it as I see it. I thought that if he was put through some adversity in the octagon, he would quit. Neil Magny, on the other hand, was coming in off a terrible performance against Ian Gary, where he got the kicked out of him for 15 minutes. Both of his legs were badly damaged, and he literally looked career worst. He probably had the worst performance of his entire UFC career, just one fight before the Mike Malott fight. So of course, everybody going into that fight was picking Mike Malott for the win. Neil Magny looked terrible lately, and he's on the older side, and now we got this Canadian superstar fighting in Canada. The UFC is trying to push, trying to get him into the rankings by fighting someone like Neil Magny, who is a known gatekeeper for the welterweight division. Everything was lining up for Mike Malott to go out there and style on him. Neil Magny was a massive, gigantic underdog in this fight. He was plus 300 on the money line. That's $4 for those of you who use decimal odds, and 3-1 for those of you who use fractional odds. For those of you who don't know what that means, it basically means there's no way Neil Magny is winning this fight. Almost nobody was picking Neil Magny to win. The bookmakers not only priced him as a massive underdog, but they also priced his inside the distant round props at massive numbers. They was giving you 33-1 on Neil Magny to finish the fight in round 3, which to me was crazy because, as I said, I didn't really believe Mike Malott. I didn't think his cardio was great, and I didn't think he was a great nail. So if Neil could just put him in a bad position when his cardio starts to drop in round 3, he would be live for the finish. And at 33-1 odds, I decided to take it. I put my balls on the line with this one, guys. I played tons of bets over multiple betting accounts. I played Neil Magny to win, Neil Magny's money line. I put Neil Magny in a parlay. I put Neil Magny to win in round 2, to win in round 3, to win inside the distance. I hammered Neil Magny, tons of different bets, all on Neil Magny to win, which was the biggest underdog on the entire card. People call me crazy. They thought I was a nutter. Everyone was picking Mike Malott to win. But then the fight happened. Mike Malott started the fight really well. He was easily winning the fight. He was catching Magny with some boxing, but mainly just staying at the outside, poking him and showing that he was the better striker. He was landing his leg kicks hard, and during the first round, it seemed like Magny's legs may be completely dead. Just like they got beat up in the Ian Gary fight, they looked to be getting beat up in this fight, and I can't lie, with a bet on Neil Magny, I was starting to doubt myself. Mike Malott was beating the fuck out of Neil Magny's legs, and I said to myself, damn, are we really going to lose this bet before it even starts, just because now Neil Magny can't walk? But Neil Magny's a veteran and he pushed through. I know he was hurt. I know his legs were hurting. You could see it on his face. He was grimacing when he got kicked, but he kept pushing through. Round 2 starts and it's more of the same. Mike Malott's kind of beating up his leg. Neil Magny's not really doing anything. He's landing a little bit more. He's having a bit more success, but Mike Malott's clearly winning the round. The round finishes and now we're heading to round 3. At this point, I'm 2 rounds down. Neil Magny is 2 rounds to none. And the only way he can win the fight is by getting a finish in that 3rd round. But what happens? Mike Malott comes out in that round, gets on top of him, is kind of dominating, seems to be winning the fight easily. But just like I said, the tides start turning. Mike Malott's cardio starts fading. In a fight where the pace was almost 0, he still started gassing out. Neil Magny started having more success. Neil Magny was able to get on top. Mike Malott started rolling for heel hooks. Desperate attempts to finish Neil Magny. At this point, the tide had fully turned. Neil Magny was now in control of the fight, but he only had about 2 minutes left. Surely that's not enough time to finish. But cardio makes a coward out of everyone, and not everybody can be a hammer for the entire fight. Mike Malott was now the nail, and Magny was the hammer. He was on top of him, getting in full mount, getting in dominant positions, pounding away, heavy shots from top position. At this point, I'm shouting at my TV like, come on, ref, stop the fight.
Stop the fight!
I know that if the referee stops the fight, I'm going to be up $70,000 on one single fight. And by the way, crazy caveat to this, I had already won $50,000 on Gillian Robertson earlier in the card, which was my single biggest win ever. And fast forward to Neil Magny in round 3, I'm shouting at my TV to have an even bigger win on the exact same card. It was crazy. But back to the story. So Neil Magny's got like 60 seconds left. He's pounding away. Mike Malott's looking for the door. He ain't defending himself. He's just putting his hand over his head and basically hoping the referee comes in and stops it. But since Mike Malott was beating his ass for 2 rounds, I wasn't confident the referee would stop it. So I'm shouting at my TV, trying to do some telecommunication straight into the referee's brain to tell him, stop this fight, bro. I need this 70K. But he ain't really listening to me. Neil Magny's still pounding away, but the referee still ain't stopping the fight. At this point, there's 20 seconds left in the fight and Neil Magny is just unloading strikes. I'm thinking to myself, is the referee really going to let this go on for another 20 seconds? But then the other part of me is thinking, 20 seconds ain't long. He's already let it go for about a minute. Why is he not going to let it go for 20 seconds? All of this stuff is going through my brain as I'm watching Neil Magny pummel the head of Mike Malott in the 3rd round. At the 20-second mark, I see the referee look a bit closer. You know the referees, when they step forward, they kind of crouch down. It's like they're thinking about calling the fight off. They're getting a bit closer to the action just to put their hand out in case they need to call it off. But there's only 20 seconds left, so it counts down 19, 18, 17, 16. There's only 16 seconds left of the fight and the referee still ain't stopped it. Then it happens. With 15 seconds left to go in the fight, the referee steps in, stops the fight, and Neil Magny is the winner by 3rd round knockout. Celebrations, jubilations. We did it. 15 seconds more and we would have lost our bets. But that's not how it went down. We cashed our bets and we cashed them all. I put $3,800 down on Neil Magny to win at odds of $4 and I got a return of $15,200. On another bookmaker, I put a bet of 3,250 Great British pounds down and I got 13,000 pounds back, which is like 16,000 USD or something like that. I put another £892.50 down, which returned £3,570, which is in US dollars close to a $5,000 return. I put another $1,460 down on him, which returned $5,840. But wait, I haven't even shown you the good stuff yet. I told you that I not only bet on Neil Magny to win, but I also bet on him specifically to win in round 3. This bet slip I staked only £250 and it returned £8,500. That is over a $10,000 return on less than a $400 bet. I put another £100 down on his round 3 prop to return £3,400. I put $500 down on him to win in round 2 or round 3, which cashed for $3,875. I put another $500 down on him to win in round 3, which cashed for $8,000. $500 turned into $8,000 within a couple of moments of madness. Here's another $50 bet, which returned $800. And I actually have more bet slips than this, but I'm not going to post every single last bet slip up on the screen. All in all, I made $70,000 off the Neil Magny fight. It was the biggest win in a single fight of my entire career. And as I said, I've been betting for many, many years. I got to give a big shout out to the man who made it possible, which was Neil Magny. Shout out to you, man, the Haitian sensation. From this day on, January the 20th, will be known as Neil Magny Day. No Neil Magny slander will be allowed in these YouTube comments. The man is a legend for life for what he did for me and all of my subscribers to my service on January the 20th. We will never forget you, bro. And if you're watching this, I've already sent you a DM to try and get in contact with you to donate some money to a charity of your choice or to your camp costs, which I've been regularly doing over the last 3 years to many different fighters when I earn some money off their fights. Lots of times I've done this, I haven't even publicized it, but hopefully it can inspire some of you gamblers to do the same. It's good to give back, it's good to pass the blessings on in life. So that's it. That's the story of how I won $70,000 on a single UFC fight. Shout out to my boy Neil Magny. And all of these bets that I'm showing you today were sent out to my members on my members only website before the fight. If you want to sign up with me and get picks like this in the future, then click the link in my bio or go to lucrativemmabetting.com and you can find more out about me there. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks to Neil Magny. Peace out. Bang.